Hi, I'm Chris Wardlaw for CarGurus, and this is the new Nissan Rogue Sport, a nameplate reflective of fake news if there ever was one. There is nothing sporty about this small crossover SUV, except for maybe its looks. In fact, Nissan should offer free coffee gift cards with every Rogue Sport purchase in order to help its customers stay awake. At the very least, this vehicle's begging for a drowsy driver monitoring system. Aside from its wholly uninspiring driving dynamics though, the Rogue Sport is an appealing little SUV. I'd even call it one of the better ones in its segment. Let's go for a drive and I'll explain. Before we get into the details, I need to provide some context around the Nissan Rogue lineup. The Rogue is the company's best-selling vehicle, a small SUV that's among the larger vehicles in its segment. It competes against vehicles like the Chevy Equinox, the Ford Escape, the Honda CR-V, the Subaru Forester, the Toyota RAV4, and a bunch of other popular crossovers. Now, the Rogue Sport is smaller, and it's based on a global vehicle called the Qashqai. Now, since nobody in the US was going to be able to spell that, let alone say it properly, and frankly, I'm not entirely sure I'm saying it the right way, the Qashqai became the Rogue Sport. It comes in 3 trim levels, S, SV, and SL. My test vehicle is the SV trim. It's equipped with all-wheel drive, the all-weather package, the premium package, and a set of floor mats. The price tag, including the $960 destination charge, is $27,885. Now, as far as styling is concerned, I think the Rogue Sport is Nissan's best-looking SUV. Heck, it's one of Nissan's best-looking cars. It demonstrates proper proportion, stylistic restraint, design cohesion, characteristics that are frequently lacking in modern Nissan products. The interior is nice too, especially up front, where the owner is going to spend all of his or her time. The Rogue Sport's got the same dashboard as the larger Rogue, which helps to make this smaller SUV actually feel bigger inside. Soft touch materials are used in all the right places, and the height adjustable driver's seat is comfortable and wrapped in attractive cloth upholstery with pretty cool 3D effects on the inserts. Oh, and check out this flat bottom steering wheel. It's just about the only thing that's legitimately sporty about this SUV. The front passenger seat is equally comfortable, and though it lacks height adjustment, Nissan mounts it high enough off of the floor so that that's not really necessary. Both front seats are really easy to get into and out of, which is one of the main reasons that people have fallen in love with crossovers. Well, that and the fact that they sit taller off the road than cars do for better visibility. Rear seat accommodations are not as agreeable as the seats up front. Air conditioning vents certainly do help, but the bottom cushion is as flat as a park bench and it's about as comfortable. Now, it's designed that way to make sure that when the rear seat's folded down, the load floor is flat, but I'm not sure that that compromise is worthwhile, especially if you plan on carrying people in the back seat on a regular basis. Legroom, however, is decent back there, and there's plenty of space for feet. Nissan also uses soft front seat backs that are kind to knees and shins should they come into contact with them. Now, the trunk is genuinely small. It measures 19.9 cubic feet, which is like an Altima sedan plus a Miata put together. Notably, the cargo floor does include 2 bins with lids that can be adjusted to help hold groceries in place and keep them from rolling around. And there are some handy side storage bins that are also quite useful. When you fold the seats down, the space does expand to 53.3 cubic feet, but that is less than the more efficient Kia Niro. Back in the driver's seat, instrumentation is large and clear, and it's perfect for easy reference. The controls are logically located too, except for the optional heated steering wheel and heated front seat buttons, which are placed in entirely different locations, neither of which is anywhere close to the climate system. As for the infotainment system, it uses real buttons to access primary functions, and it supplies real knobs for the stereo. Unfortunately, the display screen itself is small, and it washes out really easily in sunlight, which effectively renders it invisible. Now, I used the voice recognition system to find local points of interest and specific addresses, and it worked easily enough. The Rogue Sport's got no trouble finding outlets for my favorite coffee houses or burrito joints, whether they're in my current location or in a completely different city. You still have to go through various menus and speak specific prompts, but the whole system didn't cause me too much consternation. Also, at this price point, it is genuinely impressive to be able to get a 360-degree surround view camera system with front and rear camera views and moving object detection technology. You can even switch the screen to show the front wheel so that you can better gauge parking maneuvers. My test vehicle also has a blind spot warning system with rear cross traffic alert, but the available forward collision warning with pedestrian detection, automatic emergency braking, and lane departure warning and prevention systems are available only on the top of the line SL trim level. As I'm reviewing the Rogue Sport, it hasn't yet been crash tested, so I can't really comment on how it might protect you in a collision. The good news is that if you do get into a wreck, you're probably not going to be going very fast. Actually, that's not true. I'm just being a smartass. Believe it or not, the Rogue Sport's meager 141 horsepower 2-liter 4-cylinder engine actually scooted this SUV up a local mountain grade at a steady 80 miles an hour, which is one benefit of the SUV's continuously variable transmission. Now, if you don't know what a CVT is, it's basically a belt-driven single-speed automatic transmission that continuously varies gear ratios with the goal of maximizing fuel economy at the same time that it can keep an engine within the thick of its meager power band. Generally speaking, they work fine, but they sound terrible, even when they're programmed to simulate gear changes like the one in the Rogue Sport. As someone who has personally owned a vehicle with a CVT for 12 years, I can tell you from experience that you never get used to the droning under hard acceleration. Now, that's one reason the Rogue Sport is most enjoyable to drive at part throttle when you're not in a hurry. It feels almost spry around town, and this SUV is unexpectedly quiet for the segment. You can barely tell that it uses a CVT to make the most of its 141 horsepower and 147 pound-feet of torque unless you really step on the gas. The other reason is that when you're in a hurry or trying to pass slower traffic or attempting to get onto a freeway at any velocity resembling the flow of traffic, the lack of acceleration combined with the incessant engine droning is a recipe for frustration. Apparently, I spent lots of time at high RPM because I averaged no better than 24.4 miles per gallon on my test loop. The EPA says that a Rogue Sport with all-wheel drive should have gotten 27 miles per gallon in combined driving, and to me that just represents wishful thinking. Now, the reward for all that engine revving? Well, it's pretty disappointing. The Rogue Sport is not quick whatsoever, and the driving dynamics are pretty dull. Again, this compact crossover is best in a city environment where neither speed nor athletic handling is necessary. The small size and the light steering make it easy to maneuver through traffic and into parking spaces. Now, when you get out on the freeway, the Rogue Sport feels like it's rolling on underinflated tires or dragging an anchor. Speaking of drag, the coefficient of drag is 0.33, which is not great. But that's also not likely the cause of that feeling. Instead, it just seems to me that the tiny little engine is entirely disinterested in keeping this 3,380-pound SUV moving at a steady 75 miles per hour. On twisty roads, the Rogue Sport's wimpy 215 60R17 tires howl at the slightest provocation, and the steering is slow, leaden, and numb. Suspension tuning did a good job of controlling body motions, though, which hints at some untapped potential for fun. And I've got to give credit to the brakes because they withstood abuse in 90-degree temperatures, and they brought the Rogue Sport to a relatively swift stop during a panic braking simulation with no trouble whatsoever. But there's more to driving than just stopping, isn't there? Nissan really needs to inject some dynamic personality into this little SUV. You remember when Mitsubishi sold one of the only entry-level super small SUVs you could buy? Well, now it seems like everyone's got one. Relative to the competition, there's a lot to like about the Rogue Sport, starting with its styling. The main problem with it, and this is true of many of its competitors, is that it is about as much fun to drive as one of those stinky, loud, cramped, and bouncy Autopia cars at Disneyland. Now, don't take me literally on that, but just as adults dread climbing into an Autopia car with their kid, so too they might dread getting into a Rogue Sport for yet another snooze-inducing cruise. You know what would help to make the Rogue Sport more worthy of its name? A turbocharger. Without one, this SUV is more accurately described as the Nissan Rogue Short. Be sure to check out my full review of the Rogue Short on CarGurus.com. And if you found this review helpful, please share this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. For all of us here at CarGurus, thank you for watching.